Lights off. I got it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, what's going on? My name is Cardinellis. I am your host. Oh, I'm living in a cave. Let there be light. Boom! There it is. That was on purpose, actually. Or maybe I just have an awesome co-host. None other than the illustrious Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
A little rough start. It's all right. And I realized, dang it, all of my, not sodas, all of my beverages that help me come, this keeps me from consuming this, which keeps this from getting bigger. So we might have to endure this throughout the podcast. Anyway, we got some interesting geopolitical news here. You'll notice the title of the live stream is What Happens When You Blow Up a Building? What message is that trying to send? Because internationally, there's a little bit of a geopolitical shaking up going on. And we don't exactly know how to interpret it or what message South Korea is sending to North.
I don't know. I think I can tell. I think it's kind of I don't want to say.
Well, tell us what's going on, Cody.
Okay, I'll tell you guys what's going on. But yes, so actually shout out to Marianne H. I think the first person to bring it up in particular. But yes, so we're going to go through and walk through a story. So I'm going to start going back to the year 2018 in July. In July, actually, South Korean workers were sent to the North Korean border town of Kaesong, I believe, to set up a liaison's office, basically just a designated building where people from South and North Korea could meet to discuss the, I don't want to say reunification, but the de-escalation that was going on.
Okay, fair enough.
I think you guys might remember, it's crazy to say, but about a year ago now, where Donald Trump met with the Korean leader in Vietnam, I believe it was. And they infamously left the talks without anything being discovered. Anyways, just going through this as well. Oh, sorry, let me resize that. But this has been a place for the last couple of years where they've been meeting to discuss just potential ways, trying to find the specific thing they were talking about. But basically, it was a great way for the two Koreas to communicate with each other. Well, today, or difficult, the other side of the world, but in the last 24 hours, North Korea decided to, I think, answer South Korea for why it hasn't been answering their calls by blowing up what the Washington Post calls the de facto embassy between North and South Korea. So I want to go through and talk about this because there's so much craziness going on in the U.S. I know I've been, I'm sure a lot of other people just haven't been spending as much time looking at other stuff. So I just have to go through this a little bit because to be honest, I haven't been following this insanely closely over late. I do remember, though, however, hearing in the last week or so, there was issues with, I believe it was essentially described as North Korea wasn't picking up the phone. So when South Korea was reaching out to North Korea for communication, there was not any communication in response. I think in between there might have been something said. However, the latest response was blowing up again what the Washington Post called the de facto embassy. So I want to get some of the facts here.
Well, this is like that secret line that we had with the Russians. Actually, I mean, we still have, correct? That secret kind of like telephone line that the leaders of the nuclear armed countries have with each other, that was a mutual agreement between Russia and America to hopefully avoid thermonuclear fallout in the 70s and 80s. They established that encrypted secret line. It seems like this is similar between North and South Korea, right? They kind of just had this agreed thing as enemies that, you know, will at least have this.
In very recent history, I remember like famously Donald Trump walked across, I guess I'll pull a picture up if you guys haven't seen it. Donald Trump actually is the first U.S. president to stand inside of North Korea probably in some time.
All right.
I don't know. I don't think George Bush or Obama did. So that would at least be 16 years. I mean, maybe they did. Let me know in chat. I think it was a big deal, though. Donald Trump stepped into North Korea. Anyway, it definitely highlights where things have come since then. Because I mean, obviously, if North Korea really, really wanted to make a statement, I would say kidnapping the American president could have been one, and they easily could have. Now we see that North Korea is not even necessarily working with South Korea on any level, and has actually blown up their. That is one of the crazy things. So I'm trying to find out really quickly. Just cause here's the picture. I guess I'll bring it up for those of you guys who remember seeing this image. This was in I'll pull up the date on it, but man, it feels like a lifetime ago. But anyway, since this point, we've now got to the point to the building. Which, by the way, go back to that first story I showed you guys. As far as I understand, it actually looks like South Korea kind of helped renovate this building the North Koreans blew up. Because they say here that a team of South Korean workers visited Kaesong, a border town of North Korea, on Monday, July 2nd to renovate facilities there as part of efforts to set up a joint liaison office with the North, according to Seoul's Unification Ministry. The South Korean team of 26 workers crossed the DMZ, the military demarcation line. I prefer DMZ. I understand that no longer is the shorthand for this, but dividing the two Koreas at 8:37 local time, very specific radio reporting. The workers would do the maintenance works for facility, including the Inter-Korea Exchange, cooperation offices, dormitories, and supporting centers. South Korea advanced team led by Unification Vice Minister Chun Hae-sun, I believe, visited Kaesong last month to conduct on examinations over the Inter-Korea industrial complex. Anyway, moving on. It just that interesting wrinkle, doing some research into that. So that sucks. Yeah. Also, what message is that sounding? The building that they had sent the South Korean workers to help renovate was blown up by the North Koreans. And again, I think Washington Post, normally I kind of bristle at how people in the media will characterize things, but I did love how they characterized this as a very dramatic demolition. Because, as you can see the video here, well, this is an ad we can skip in 14 seconds, but I mean, you can see the photo right here. It was a very there's plenty of ways you could repurpose buildings and you could implode them, exploding them in dramatic fashion, something else.
So let's just try and answer the question that's the title of our live stream. What kind of message are the blower-uppers trying to send here? Are they just saying that we don't value communication anymore, or I'll tell you this is what you get if you don't answer a phone call? What is it an act of war? You know what I'm saying? What are you thinking this is? Because didn't you say that Kim Jong-un's sister, the girl with the coldest stare known to man? I mean, she is, I don't know, but she fits every bill if I were to cast a cruel Southeast Asian, dictator. She fits every stereotypical look, stare, grimace, you know what I'm saying? Whatever. How do you what message they trying to send here?
I mean, I don't live in North Korea, so I can't speak. Yeah. I'm definitely not in the North Korea's leadership inner circle. However, though, it does seem that is something that's going on here as well. I'll see if I can pull the article up for you guys here. I just want to make sure I can find the right one. But yes, the language coming from I want to make sure I get her name right. Kim Yo-jung, I believe, has been very interesting as of late. As they note in this article, which I thought was funny, days before the demolition of the liaison office on Tuesday, she threatened its destruction on Saturday, calling it useless. So I would say as far as the influence of this individual, it's the person who publicly calls the building useless and then has it destroyed a couple days later. So, I mean, she seems to be rising in the ranks. She is, yes. I think... I don't know how you would describe it. Do you remember, guys, when you guys were hearing about that... Kim Jong-un might be dead. Remember when that was going around? He might be dead. And they just kind of came back like, I'm not dead. The only thing that really stuck out of that was Kim Yo-jung, his sister, I believe, becoming his, what's what I'm looking for, to kind of de facto replacement if something were to happen to him. So I thought that was very interesting.
So today's just a crazy day, Cody. I mean, we had the Supreme Court ruling come down. I haven't even unpacked all the implications thereof. I don't even think our society has been able to impact the implications thereof. This is a big deal that I'm not convinced was a good deal. Many parts of me don't see how it could have gone any other way. So I don't know. I'm not really sure exactly what to think of this. But you got freaking basically acts of war between North and South Korea going on. There's something going on. I haven't dove into the Indian people fighting the Chinese people on the border.
Hold on.
we got like...
I wouldn't call it acts of war. I mean, I think the closest we can get to it is
blowing up the embassy, the de facto embassy. That is literally.
But it's de facto, exactly, not literal. And also, I want to go through this. This is what I was trying to talk about earlier. This was on the published this recent Sunday, the 14th of June.
Okay, but before you go further, Cody, can we just look at that stare? Look at the stare of that woman. That's literally how she looks at you as they're torturing you and about to take your life because she got the information and whatever relief she promised you in exchange for the information she's not giving. Like, this is the picture the actresses study when they get cast as a ruthless dictator.
Okay. Fascinating. But anyway, what I wanted to go through here was that there's a traffic collision out here locally. Anyway, the sister of North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un has threatened to mobilize the country's military against South Korea, which is pretty dramatic, I would say. Tensions have been approaching the boiling point between the bordering nations in recent weeks. Again, this is before the demolition of the building. Most recently, North Korea accused Seoul of failing to prevent activists from spreading propaganda leaflets across the border. South Korea has since taken legal action against defectors who would send rice and pamphlets over the border, usually by balloon. Days later, Kim Yo-jong issued the stark warning via state-run media KCNA: by exercising my power authorized by the supreme leader, our party and the state, I gave an instruction to the department in charge of the affairs with the enemy to decisively carry out the next action. Our army, too, will determine something for cooling down our people's resentment and surely... Our army, too, will determine something for cooling down our people's resentment and surely carry it out, I believe. So, hopefully, this is what which is characterized here by 7news.com.au as the threat of military action against South Korean defectors. Hopefully, it looks more like I said hopefully, but it appears that's what she was describing, that they were going to destroy this building and probably maybe some other symbols of recent acts of diplomacy between the two countries.
Wow.
Now that seems to be the facts that I found. There, as always, is some interesting stuff circling around South Korea. For example, I believe, let's see if I have it pulled up right here, that a mysterious, potentially essential drone submarine was discovered off of the coast of North Korea at one of their factories. And this was published in Forbes, again, just recently in the last few days, that a new mystery submarine may have been found in North Korea. And they talk about a 50-foot-long object on the quay side at a secretive North Korean Navy base. Appears to be a small submarine. I have no idea what a quay side is. If I pronounce it incorrectly, that is why.
Yeah.
It could even be an extra-large uncrewed underwater vehicle. XLUUV, which is a long way to say a submarine drone, which is, I believe, what that would be describing. The discovery by Western observers comes at a time when North Korea has shut off communication with the South and threatened to mobilize the country's military.
Is that one of ours? Because I know that we've got like these miniature nuclear subs.
It's very
drones
close.
that have existed
you could
for like
see in
10
the map.
years.
It would be that. If that was one of ours, I would say North Korea would have...
screwed.
I'm not even screwed. They'd have reason to declare war on us almost. I mean, if we just had drones basically 50 feet off their shore spying on them at their military bases, they would probably be very upset. Because the unidentified object was found in high-resolution satellite imagery and was first reported by North Korean analysis website 38 North. There are several possibilities from the mundane to the explosive. One suggestion is that it is a new class of submersible. Basically, I want to highlight this to show you guys that there has been in the last few days, as recently as even today, discussion going on about the North Korean military apparently doing some kind of mobilization effort. Is it in preparation to invade the South? I mean, like, I wish I could say no way, no how, but the North Korean, one of the new most influential people in North Korea has said perhaps as much, yes. So, but personally, I don't think so. I feel like North Korea always says they're about to destroy the West and invade South Korea, and they never do.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would say, again, getting back to, I guess, the original topic here in the story, like, yeah, what does it actually mean when you blow the building up? Right? Like this is obviously a symbol. They could have just simply left the building to rot and decay, which, no offense to North Korea, but is definitely something they're not a stranger to. I believe there's a gigantic fairground/theme park that's been left to rot and decay because they don't use it as much anymore. Wow. So again, why blow it up in such a dramatic fashion? The smoke can be seen from South Korea.
Okay. So now let's just gravitate away from North Korea to the other tense border. All right. What is this going on with the 20. You were talking in the pre-show about this, and I've been kind of Googling a little bit about what's going on. There's been a conflict at the border of China and India in which there's actually been some bloodshed. Now, see, traditionally you don't view those as contentious countries. I get the DMZ and North Korea and South Korea having some issues because that's a 50-year-old conflict. I mean, you might as well be talking about Palestinians and Israelis at this point, right? So we're used to hearing about those kind of border clashes and flare-ups there. But India and China, I mean, I never would have guessed in a million years. What's going on? What's it say?
Oh, so yes, border clashes between the Indian and Chinese military have been going on. Now, from what I had read into historically, going back for a little while now, I think a decade or so, the clashes generally have been taken out using, which might sound kind of a bit, I don't want to say, yeah, I'll dunk on China, I don't care, a little bit humorous. Generally, they've been clashing primarily with sticks and stones, literally, like just,
Really?
I mean, just physical clashes with no weapons, right? So you grab what's around you, a stick or a rock, and you throw it at them. But people would be injured, but generally that'd be about it. And there'd be these little clashes around here. But today we saw and I mean, I'm no military or war, historian, but as far as 20 soldiers killed in a pretty small area in one day is kind of interesting. So,
but what are they fighting over? Is it just like a pride issue? Like there's a line, no, that's mine, that's yours, or is there an actual natural resource? What's the root of this?
I'm sure there's something. Let's go to the article. So it says the worst clash in decades on the disputed India-China border kills 20 Indian troops. Under nationalist leaders, the nuclear-armed rivals have been increasingly assertive towards neighbors, risking open conflict. They have contested their Himalayan border for generations, that's one of the reasons why I thought it was funny. It's like, normally, I don't know, man, I feel like the China-India border is a pretty hot topic for 1,000 years, but
what are they fighting over Mount Everest or what? What's going on here? They're frozen mountaintops here.
Yes, fighting over Mount Everest. The worst border clash between India and China in more than 40 years, of 20 Indian soldiers and dozens believed captured. That's the other crazy thing too, is we'll keep like dozens captured. I mean, like, I don't know. Is it normal for a country to lose potentially 70 soldiers in one day to either capture or death, right? Indian officials said on Tuesday, raising tensions between the rivals for the past several weeks after a series of brawls, again, leading to, kind of the sticks and stones style of physical conflicts they were having along their disputed border. China and India have been building up their forces in the remote Galwan Valley, high up in the Himalayas. I believe it would be K2, it's the Himalayas.
Yeah, okay.
Everest, I think, would be in Nepal.
Yeah, but I'm saying it's the Himalayan mountain range, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, though. Yeah, who knows? Enough talk about mountains. As they dug into opposing positions, adding tinder to a long smoldering conflict, China took an especially muscular posture, sending in artillery, armed personnel carriers, dump trucks.
But what are the dump trucks and excavators for? What are they going to do? Like, dig a trench, right?
Yeah, digging, right? On Monday night, or demolish stuff.
Yeah, I was about to say,
so on Monday night, though, a huge fight broke out between the Chinese Indian troops in roughly the same barren area where these two nations, the world's most populous, had fought a war in 1962.
Whoa.
Military and political analysts said the two countries do not want to... Okay, anyway, moving on. Both countries are nationalist leaders, President Xi Jinping of China and Prime Minister Narendra Modi of India, have taken increasingly assertive postures that pose real risks of the conflict spinning out of control. I want to go down and see if there's any more. Here we go. I want to go more along with the facts of what actually happened. So, what's happening along the Himalayan border is an unusual kind of warfare. As in brawls in the last month, Chinese and Indian soldiers fought fiercely without firing a shot. At least that's what officials on both sides contended.
Get out of town.
They say the soldiers followed their de facto border code not to use firearms and went at each other with fists, rocks, and wooden clubs, some possibly studded with nails or wrapped in barbed wire.
So there's some Negan out there. There's some Indian Negan with a Louisville Slugger wrapped in barbed wire going after some Chinese bro who's got his homemade version of brass knuckles. Is basically what it is.
Reminds me a lot of what's going on almost in a little bit different though. I mean, basically there's just the loophole. You can't use guns. Okay, we'll use damn near everything else then. So at first though, India's military said only 3 troops had been killed in the clash, where the Ladakh region of India abuts the Aksai Chin, an area controlled by China but claimed by both countries. So there we go. Ask what they're fighting over. There is a region that is being claimed by both countries. Literal border dispute. That's in India.
Jeez.
No, that's in China. No, that's in India. So I'm assuming what's going on here, right, is let's say there's 50 Chinese troops, and then maybe in the past there'd be 5 Chinese troops, so they send 20 Indian troops to chase them off. So then they send 50 Chinese troops to chase them off. That's what my guess would be from what they're describing, right? I mean, if both countries are contending, they run the area, they're probably both fighting over it, but it seems it's now escalated to live rounds. And again, 20 people dead in one day is... For a war is nothing, but for a small area is kind of interesting. So an Indian commander said dozens of soldiers were missing, apparently captured by the Chinese, which also, again, just losing 60 soldiers in a day is kind of not good news. Indian television channels reported that several Chinese soldiers have been killed as well. That's the other thing. We haven't heard from the Chinese government what happened on their side. Also, you would hope, right, that they weren't just massacred. Something that I guess you wouldn't hope that more people died, but from the Indian perspective, I don't think they'd like to think that they didn't fire a shot in return. Anyway, that is again citing high-level Indian government sources that multiple Chinese soldiers had been killed, which would be, when was the last? I guess it happens every now and then, but countries the size of India and China having soldiers firing live rounds and killing each other is definitely. I don't know what you can call them, crazy escalation. So
you've basically described the shot that was heard around the world when the British came to take our guns, which was a disputed issue at the time. There was some skirmishes that broke out in Lexington and Concord, in which, in the first battle of the Revolutionary War, wasn't it like 14 people were shot? Now, I'm not trying to diminish the valor or the death of any individual revolutionary soldier, but I'm saying when compared to other large scale conflicts. You'd think 14 is a relatively low number. It's close to 20. And, I'm noticing some similarities here where it looks like it could be something big, right? But it's odd to me, though, that they have this mutually agreed upon rule to not use live rounds. So they're coming at each other with clubs, which almost makes you think, are they just trying to get some anger and hatred out of their system and they both mutually agree not to bring a gun to the knife fight or like what's going on here?
Yeah, they don't want to escalate to war. I don't think
at which point what makes sense just having a club fight then?
I don't think it does. I think it's probably just two groups of people. You have to go move them from that area because they're encroaching on our land, which is what both countries would say. India's been trying to posture itself. There's kind of a meme on the internet that India will have their own space program and be in the stars. Like they'll land on the moon. Like they're a global superpower coming up.
Yeah.
So like a meme on the internet for a while now. But there's definitely, and they mention it a lot in the article. But I definitely think it's interesting. I wasn't alive 100 years ago. I don't live in the East. However, it does seem that something similar to what you saw as the nationalism in the Western Europe or just Europe in general of 100 years ago is kind of going on in the East of today. We were just talking about how the North Koreans are definitely trying to, I don't know another way of, putting it than really kind of enforce or just kind of put their stamp on their autonomy and their independence. I think North Korea understands unification with South Korea is really more like South Korea would absorb North Korea. I think they understand that the values that the unified Korea would adopt probably wouldn't be the North Korean values. They'd probably be adopting the South Korean values. And it would be the total eradication of what North Korea has been for 50, 60 years. For, I would say, the better, right? But that, again, feels to me like a nationalistic kind of conflict right there. And then we're seeing again, why would the Chinese and Indians fight over? And I thought interesting in our chat, I believe it was Inferno. He said, as an Indian that previously lived in India, India and China secretly despise each other, and they both want to control Kashmir that India controls currently and establishes themselves as a world power. Yeah, exactly. Both these countries realize that, as they mentioned in this article, two of the most populous countries in the world. A couple of the countries that realize they could go to war with each other or just throw bodies at each other for a very long time. I think they both don't want to do that. But yeah, you're seeing that there's these very strong nationalist identities forming in India and China and definitely in North Korea, it seems like, from the leadership. And we've seen in recent history that does eventually just lead to war. I believe even Russia in the last 50 years or so has made since the fall of the Soviet Union. One interesting thing about Russia since then is I don't know how many of you guys remember this, but there was something referred to as the Great Schism in the Catholic Church.
The Catholic versus the Byzantine Empire.
No, yeah, but I mean, it lasted like 1,000 years. I mean, it was insane, and it only ended when, after the fall of the Soviet Union, Russia's kind of made a bit of a really big step towards and readopting of their Orthodox religion. And it was the Eastern Orthodox Church that had separated from the Western. They didn't, I don't believe, ended the schism, but for the first time in like 1,000 years, it was discussed. Because Russia has been moving towards this more nationalist classic roots, is moving away from the Soviets trying to destroy it. So yeah, just in the East in general, we're seeing a lot of countries posture this way. And it looks like 20 Indian soldiers and probably, who knows how many Chinese killed. If the Chinese are the ones taking prisoners, I'm assuming less than the Indian. And it looks like the North Koreans severing ties with South Korea. Just interesting stuff all around. With America falling apart, it's kind of hard to notice other countries exist, but they do exist, and this is just something going on in the last few days.
Well, that's actually kind of a big deal. I mean, that seems more than just a significant skirmish. That seems more than a flare-up. That seems like
it could be, but it also could be the boil over, and this could be it. A lot of tense back and forth fighting, a battle, 20 people die. Okay, let's step back, right? It could be either way.
What would a war between China and India look like? Because China is impossible of developing its own weapons. They have to steal everything from us. And so they don't have a particularly advanced army.
I believe
in the
they've
sense
developed the weapon they use right now currently, the Type 97 or whatever.
No, that's all from stolen technology. No, it's actually very well known that the stealth bomber that they, quote, developed was based off of all stolen patents from the United States of America and Germany.
believe literally what happened was when Hong Kong was given back to the Chinese. When was that? 90s or whatever, right?
Okay, yeah.
95. They said, we have to make our own gun, and they rushed a gun out called Type 95. That was made by them. And then they reverted, and made a revision. I believe that's the story to Type 97. Because the Type 95 was rushed out as a national show of this is our new rifle, because they didn't want to use Russian AK based designs. Nationalism. What do you know? That's what it looks like.
Interesting.
You asked what it would look like. Let's take a look at something else too. It's very interesting. A lot of people wondering why would China and India have some issues. First of all, you got to feel for Nepal, man. But here's just the map.
Those poor guys are just stuck regions, right in the middle, right?
You can see what it would look like. What would be interesting, right? We've seen a lot of world wars, a lot of global wars. I mean, this is China, this is India. They're right on top of each other. It would be interesting because, would fighting between these two countries spill over anywhere else? Would it lead to the Chinese establishing, just taking this, the South China Sea, so to speak, and just taking things? I honestly don't think there'd be a war, so I don't think it would really come to that. But it's a good question. What would it look like?
Well, see, that's what I was wondering. I don't think there would be a war either, but you'd have to think. Okay, so it actually goes back to how people form alliances, and one of the predominant alliances that people form is around language. India is now the largest speaking English language, and they're an ally of the United States of America, at least right now. And so they would be appealing to the United States of America for help. Trump would give it to them, and I think the American people would give it to them.
Hold on.
South Korea, North Korea, I don't know about that one.
You think America would get involved over essentially a petty border dispute between China and India?
Not sending the classic terminology of boots on the ground, but they'd be given all kinds of tools and materials.
The CIA is there today, I understand.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you think the U.S. government would officially be supplied? I think that's the kind of thing we'd stay out of.
Yeah, possibly. I could see them staying out of it. We don't stay out of anything very well. We find a way to get involved in everything.
We use our intelligence agencies now. I don't say army as much anymore.
I look at that and I'm thinking, well, what's America's interest? And that's a really weird one. And them fighting their own wars, you're not talking about two particularly advanced armies. They've always been dependent. China is, I'm not saying they're not advanced, but I'm saying they do not advance without the bigger, badder brother pushing them along. I'll give you two examples. China sucks at research and development. All of their new stuff is really not new stuff, but last year's versions of stuff that they could pirate, steal, and make. And then India's army got big. Their Air Force actually got formidable. They're one of the few Air Forces that has supersonic flight, but they're all, and I know this just because a good friend of mine was in the Indian Air Force and flew the Foxbat. If you look up the Foxbat, it was basically a stainless steel version of the SR-71 that I think only about maybe 30 or 40 men have flown. Supposedly, it was claimed to be even faster than the SR-71. That might have been propaganda, but either way, it does like 3 or 4 times the speed of sound and can outchase the sun. It can fly faster than the rotation of the Earth, okay? And the Foxbat was Russian, and then ultimately it was given to India as part of some exchange or something. I don't know the exact history. But their air force is dependent upon old Soviet technology. So it's like, which old, outdated army is going to win?
Old and outdated.
That relies upon just throwing people at the conflict.
Old and outdated is one way, but also, I mean, like, when you compare towards the American and the Russian. Those would be probably the top of military development. But India and China are the other, India is kind of one of the more, I guess, sneaky, formidable armies in the sense that there's a lot of people in India and they've been putting a lot of attention into it. I mean, these are the countries, I would say, honestly, that are the larger countries you would think that have weak, woefully inept militaries. Ironically, is Western European armies.
Okay, so
who's afraid of these non-existent armies that allegedly the English and the French and the Germans have? They don't exist. I mean, they sort of do, but I mean, they're minuscule. They're tiny. I think the English maybe one of the few that still retains something akin to a military, but really no, there are not very large militaries in Western Europe. For the most part, the largest militaries in the world are like America, India, China, Russia, and a couple other countries, the largest militaries.
Okay, so
correct me if I'm wrong, chat, but I believe that's kind of how it's become. You look at just the numbers and what's going on. I mean, actually, what do you know? The Germans keep trying to petition the EU to form something like an EU army. So there is some kind of large, unified European fighting force. Again, for whatever reason, backed by the Germans. I guess it's been 100 years, so it's time. But it's worth noting that India and China would be a couple of the. I believe also you're looking at Iran and Saudi Arabia. I think also, or Iran also have very large militaries. There's some big militaries in the Middle East as well, but it's funny. I mean, you look and that's
in terms of personnel, it's both of them have a larger military than the United States of America in terms of personnel.
Standing army, yeah, but I mean,
okay, so
their population's bigger too.
India claims. I just looked up these stats because I want to make sure they weren't outdated. But India boasts 1.4 million servicemen and women. Okay. Guess how much China boasts?
Probably twice that.
Close. It says 2.3. So 0.9. So you got about 1 million more. Guess how many the United States of America has? 1 million. This graph says 1.4. Okay, Wikipedia says 1 million. I'm sure it's actually probably pretty difficult to quantify, but
but this is just some other, I mean, roundabout. Something
roundabout.
Something about
exactly.
this, yeah.
So, wow, that'd be crazy, man.
But you look, right? And then it goes U.S., North Korea, Russia, Pakistan, South Korea, Iran, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Myanmar. You'll
Myanmar has
notice, when do you see Western
army?
Europe? When do you see France? France's army is, according to this Statista here, but
is
I mean
10% the size of China.
This is one particular metric. We're not looking at aircraft carriers. We're looking at fighters. We're looking at tanks, but soldiers, which are the cheapest part of our military, and not the missiles and stuff. But I just wanted to highlight that when you look, though, as far as the world goes, like China and India, would be the two largest standing armies going toe-to-toe. It would be, like I said, coming to America for help, I guess, but I mean, these are two of the biggest militaries in the world fighting each other.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, China would probably be a little bit ahead of where India is, but India is not that far behind, I don't believe. I mean,
so who would you bet on? I'd bet on China.
To your
they
point,
have zero respect for human life,
okay.
So they would throw all of their soldiers in the most precarious and dangerous situations that would ultimately they would probably just start out kamikaze. You know, I mean, Japan did it at the end as an act of desperation. I think they would just start out that way.
I just don't think the Chinese would have a lot of allies with them. I think India would probably just have more people. I think we would help India. I'm not saying they wouldn't, but I think that would be the tipping point. I don't know if India and China would ever just go completely one versus
unaided,
one. But I think also, I don't think America would go out on a limb. I think America would also bring more countries in. But I just think it's always something interesting and worth noting. A lot of people kind of, maybe I'm misunderstood because I was one of those people. But yeah, look, we have to understand that. Where it comes to where military might is really centered as far as raw numbers, it's primarily in the East right now. And again, I think it's one of the things, it speaks to rising nationalism. It's one of the first things you do, and it's one of the first things nationalists do is build a big army up. I mean, and again, I mean, we're looking, and where are these countries? They're China, India, North Korea, Russia, Pakistan, Iran, South Korea, Vietnam, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Myanmar, Indonesia. I mean,
Saudi Arabia. What do they have a military for? They're just protected by us.
What is Saudi Arabia military for? Plenty of
They're
reasons.
always complaining about not getting enough protection from us, and they've never fought in a war with anybody.
When do you get a country out of what you would describe as the East? I guess Venezuela, right?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, think about Turkey, Thailand, and Indonesia. Every single one of these countries you would describe as some part of the global East, except for you, United States, obviously, right? But isn't that interesting, right? And again, I think it's one of the reasons why it does speak to a sense of a rising nationalism that is going on a bit.
But I don't think it's the nationalism that's bad. I think it's what happens when...
Who says anything about bad or good? It leads to bigger militaries.
Yeah, okay. We could probably use a couple more service guys. Get some of these loosey-goosey kids in the Chaz. Get them through basic training. They probably wouldn't be such pansies. Oh, that's pretty funny. So...
hold on, a good point again from Tom Gonzalez. I tried to bring this up. He said number of personnel means nothing. Exactly. Like I said, these numbers don't refer to how many aircraft carriers, how many. Do you have a Navy? Do you have an Air Force? How many? Because if you have an Air Force of like 40 fighter jets, like, well, yes, I mean, we'll be able to drop bombs on you forever. But it's just the idea of recruiting men to stand and enlist as soldiers is kind of what I was trying to highlight there. I think, again, that's not necessarily military might, but the larger idea of which countries are actively recruiting soldiers and paying them to work as soldiers and serve as soldiers. And I think that's, again, just kind of a product of a more nationalist bend, is to have large standing armies. Again, it doesn't speak to the efficacy of them. I mean, you could have a large standing army with no Navy, no Air Force, and get demolished by a much smaller standing army, but there's definitely something to that.
Interesting. So China's a nuclear superpower. I know supposedly people say you can't use the word superpower with China, whatever. They've got nukes. I believe India has nukes too. Am I correct?
Yeah, believe so.
Yeah. So this would actually be a conflict of two nuclear superpowers.
For the first time. I mean, honestly.
But they've got all the old school ones that take like 15 minutes to fly into space and then to come down and you can like shoot with lasers out of the atmosphere, right? Don't they have like old 1970s nukes?
I think they're still nukes. I think they would still cause. I mean, again, I think nukes has become something like a colloquial term, even, because I believe they don't really use. They use, I think, different, much bigger bombs than nukes. I mean, if a country was to use its biggest, baddest bomb, I think it's like magnitudes larger of what was dropped on Hiroshima now from what we've developed.
Well, yeah, because the Tsar bomb, I think, didn't they say the Tsar bomb was 50 times stronger than the
Tsar bomb? But I believe you're referring to the largest bomb ever officially tested.
Yeah, it was detonated up in Siberia. And have you ever seen the videos of the pilot that was flying away from it? How just the screen became just pure white. It's actually pretty incredible when you look at the data from the Tsar bomb.
The Tsar bomba, the RDS-220 hydrogen bomb, codenamed known as the Western nations as the Tsar bomba. It was the most powerful nuclear weapon ever created. Tested on the 30th of October, 1961. The mushroom cloud of the Tsar bomba seen from a distance of 100 miles. It's going to be a typical Wikipedia photo for ants. But this is with I'll see if I can make it a little bigger, guys. This photo of the largest bomb ever tested, I believe, or largest atomic nuclear bomb, probably tested larger other bombs, was 100 miles away.
Jeez.
So you have to imagine exactly how big it was. A little bit close to 100 miles away.
I mean, and apparently keep reading, because I think it flattened trees 10 miles away, or what was the? What was the?
I'll bring it back up. Yeah, but I mean, just to the point of what would a country dropping its biggest, most sophisticated bomb look like? We honestly have no idea. Like, yes, there was the bombs dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, but like we're dropping much bigger stuff in 2020.
Yeah. Have you seen those bunker buster bombs that were made for, I believe, the Iranian conflict to get dropped out of the stealth bombers that could supposedly penetrate all of those Iranian nuclear labs where they're developing all of the...
I think bombs meant to penetrate
penetrate the soil.
But
and
get
explode,
this.
Yeah.
Get this. Jeez, man. Bomb, the Tsar bomba, which is, again, like the most ludicrous large bomb we ever dropped, I believe, weighed 60,000 pounds. 60,000 pounds. But again, I can only imagine the kind of stuff that has been developed and perhaps to be used. Because again, 61's kind of even early, and that's like heart of the Cold War. But the Cold War went on for another 20 years. I mean, there probably was other weapons. I think that was right around the end of these open, just we're going to drop giant bombs in the middle of nowhere tests. After that, I mean, there's been talk of underwater explosions, underground bomb tests. North Korea, whenever there's an earthquake around Iran or North Korea, it's always like, oh, underground nuclear explosive tests. But I mean, the idea that there are still countries out there trying to, again, just make bigger bombs so they have to test them to see. We hear that come up. I mean, think about it. Like, how many times do you hear that? An earthquake in the Middle East, is Iran or Saudi Arabia testing nuclear weapons? Like, probably not, but that's still a fear to this day.
Have you ever seen the story of the broken arrows? That the nuclear accidents that happened on American soil? One of them was crazy, Cody. I was watching a documentary on almost, like, drastically horrible nuclear accidents, and one of them, there was like a B-52, one of the huge super fortresses that was flying, and the pilots, like, I can't remember what happened. There was some kind of malfunction where the plane started vibrating and shaking so badly that both of the sensors that both the pilot and the bombardier have to set off were set off, and the bomb bay was open, and a straight up nuclear bomb was dropped onto American soil. And there was one reason it didn't explode. The internal detonator had been activated. The external detonator had been activated. And then both the two steps of to keep it from exploding have it detonated. There is one man and a 50-cent switch that saved the day. Apparently, one of the nuclear engineers that was actually assembling the bomb thought that it would be a smart idea to install a standard 50-cent light switch on the device that had to be pushed up manually. You know what I'm saying? And this thing fell out of the sky and landed, in some forest 5 miles away from some town or some city. And when the military finally went out and they searched for it, they found that literally the only thing that had kept that thing from going off was a 50-cent light switch that you could get like from Home Depot, that one of the engineers thought, I'll put an extra layer of security into this thing. I mean, it is absolutely absurd how this has not happened. You're looking up the Moab. That looks cool.
It'd be that, just again, speaking to, again, we've also gotten very good at making non-nuclear bombs that are gigantic and explosive. And the Moab, I think, the mother of all bombs, I believe is what that stands for, has been one of the more devastating ones used by the American military as recently as, I think, 2017, this footage was.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the kind of, I wouldn't say first successes, but one of the first big PR saber-rattling shows of force of the Trump administration was the use of the Moab, which stands for what, Cody? Oh,
I believe.
Isn't it the mother of all bombs?
Believe so.
Is that what the Moab
it
stands
might not,
for?
But I believe so. But yeah, I mean, but just to the point that you don't have to necessarily have, nuclear arms to drop devastating bombs. Now, this bomb is essentially a third of what we were looking at before with the Tsar bomb. But again, it weighs 21,000 pounds, so very large.
Dude.
But
60,000 pounds for the Tsar bomb. Yeah. How do you even get that off the ground? How much does a tank weigh? Hold on. How much does
probably
a
couple
tank
tons.
weigh? And so 60,000, it's 2,500 pounds is a ton, right? So you're looking at almost, 25 tons? So it's the current generation of main battle tanks. Weigh between 50 and 75 short tons.
Yeah.
Wow, that is hardcore. So it weighs about a tank, a small tank. Okay, we got planes that can lift tanks. Okay, that makes sense. Those big fatty old super scooper.
It literally is. Obviously, they're dropped from planes, so they have to drop from planes.
But I was reading on the Tsar bomb that they had to install a parachute that gave at least 11 minutes of flight time to I checked if it was 11 or 14 minutes, but it was something significant that had to give I remember it was double digits of escape time for the plane, because apparently the burst bubble is so big that unless you were 11 minutes away, you would actually get sucked back into the recoil of the bomb. The poor dude. So just imagine being that Russian pilot where by this time you know that you're dropping the Tsar bomb. You've been debriefed, okay? And you're flying there. And the whole purpose of the Tsar bomb was a test run to see if their calculations were right. I mean, look back at the top of the Wikipedia article. If I'm not mistaken, even on the Wikipedia article, it mentions that, okay, this is basically a test run to see if their calculations were right.
I'm going to bring it because we're hearing conflicting reports that was, which sounds more correct, launched out of a silo and not dropped out of an airplane. But look it up.
Wait, the Moab is launched out of a silo?
No, let's see. So it could.
No, I've seen the video from 1951. It was dropped out of a plane.
Yes.
Yeah, it says.
I'll have to look it up. It is a whole thing.
Yeah, so no, it was dropped out of a plane. In fact, you can look up on YouTube the picture that was taken from the plane that dropped it, and all of a sudden you see just boom, this huge.
Yes, it was attached to a 17,000 square foot parachute.
Yeah. 17,000 square feet.
It's literally a house.
A house is 2,000 square feet.
Like a mansion.
So that is literally a parachute the size of 8 houses.
According to Wikipedia, the parachute gave the observer planes time to fly about 45 kilometers away, giving them roughly a 50% chance of survival.
Yeah, look at that, dude. Can you imagine being that Russian pilot thinking?
They give you 50% chance.
I might be just a hero for the motherland, and I might make it. That sucks. That's bravery and dedication to the motherland.
According to this, the Tu-95V that dropped the bomb, because of the shockwave they felt, because they were only able to get 39 kilometers away, forced the plane to descend a kilometer. However, they were able to maintain. They were able to not fall off course and maintain.
See, this is why we're not men anymore. That would define you. Escaping the blast radius of world's largest nuclear bomb. Forever, that pilot has bragging rights and can stare down the barrel of evil and death and fear nothing because he already had to fly through the blast radius of world's largest nuclear weapon. How can you get tougher than that? Jocko Willenick maybe, but
they dropped it on nothing.
Well, it wasn't nothing. It was
nothing.
Siberia. Yeah, it was a safe place, shall we say?
Yeah. Oh wow, very very cool, man. You dropped the bomb in a safe place. Very cool.
Yeah. So, speaking of which, Cody, would you feel comfortable going back into Chernobyl now? Have you been seeing all those cool YouTube videos of people that are starting to set up shop in Chernobyl because you can basically live there for free?
Well, yeah, very cool. Squatting's awesome.
Yeah.
Being forced to squat in the radioactive zones feels like awesome to me. I probably wouldn't live there. No. I might visit. Seems like you could visit it. Very interested. I'd be very interested in visiting because one of my favorite video games takes place in essentially that region of the world. So very fascinated in seeing it up close and personal.
Interesting. So, what would you want to see?
Honestly, the locations from the game. That's what I'd want to see.
Really? Okay. In fact, I've always thought about this. Games are getting so cool in how they can realistically portray places. Could video game tourism kind of start becoming a thing?
Ubisoft has tried it already. Ubisoft, I believe when Notre Dame burned not down, but when there's a fire in Notre Dame, Ubisoft, a video game company based out of France, had actually done a installment of their Assassin's Creed video game series that took place in France in like the 1700s or whatever. As a result of that, they actually had done the most accurate, I think, 3D recreation of the original Notre Dame, and it was been used for the restorations. More recently, they've done games based in ancient Egypt and ancient Greece, and despite a kind of fantasy element with monsters and stuff in the games, they actually have released versions. You can look it up, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, Journey. It's a version of the game where all you do is walk around the cities and landmarks that they recreated, and I do believe people have said that if you want to see the most faithful recreation of what ancient Greece perhaps looked like, I think Assassin's Creed Odyssey, people said, is the best, most up-to-date, closest, most photorealistic recreation of ancient Greece. I mean, all the landmarks, the Acropolis, and all that stuff. So that's very fascinating. And then I got a kick out of, there's a game that came out recently called I forgot the name of it, but the whole thing takes place in Bohemia around the period of the Hussite Wars, very close to my heart. But again, has been considered probably the most faithful recreation of castles and just buildings of the time. Again, through video games. So that's been going on for, I would say, the last 5 years or so. Is when people really recreating things historically that were very photorealistic has started. But you can even see it. I mean, there's a very famous blog where somebody drove from California to Las Vegas and they stopped at all the famous landmarks from the Fallout New Vegas game. And a lot of them were on the way there. So that was very interesting.
Okay, that's pretty cool. How far away do you think we are until video games are so good? Because right now a video game looks like a video game. It does. You can get some amazing light graphics, and if you have some gnarly processor and you throw $15,000, $20,000 into your computer, you can get some really cool and good-looking video games, but not unintelligibly similar video game graphics.
Sorry, Kingdom Come Deliverance. That was the game I couldn't think of the name. I want to make sure I shout the name. Kingdom Come Deliverance, yes.
Okay. How soon until video games actually get so cool that we are tempted to do the video game version of France that's cheaper than going to France itself?
Well, I mean, visually, I would push back and say there is some photorealistic stuff that visually looks,
Like what?
It would look.
Karn the Boomer King is not.
The latest Modern Warfare had some elements that I would say look photorealistic. They don't.
Interesting. Okay.
Famously, some of the more recent Madden installments at a glance would look something photorealistic. Driving games for a couple years now, because they're able to focus so much just on the outside environments, have gotten very, very. Honestly, I would argue it's never going to look the same. When is a Pixar movie? When is animation ever going to confuse you for reality? Probably never. But as far as at a glance, I would say we've kind of gotten to at a glance confusing a video game for reality. It just could not like reality,
Legit?
but you could look at something for a second and say, "Oh, I didn't realize that was generated with computers. That looked very good." If you look closer, you'll always be able to tell that it's fake, but I would say in recent years it has gotten to that point already. We don't live in computers. We live in reality. We know what reality looks like. We know what computers look like. So we'll always know one from the other. But the fidelity's there. Especially not moving to 4K. It's getting into fidelity's there. I would say Red Dead Redemption 2 probably with their weather effects at times is one of the closest to reality looking things I've seen. Like at times looks better than feature films as far as the weather effects go in that. So it's here already. It's just it's never, obviously people will never be like, we'll be able to look at it like it's reality, because it's just not. Even animation that isn't a video game, and you can have. When is CG ever going to get so good you'll confuse it with reality? Probably never, right?
Yeah. So I got two other things that I was going to ask you about. I'm sending you a link in Discord. Have you seen the new robot that they actually claim is going to replace human jobs in the Amazon fulfillment centers? It was the world's first picker robot for warehouses. I used to work in a warehouse. This is pretty interesting. Thinking how me and my buddies that worked in that warehouse could get replaced. So that's been debuted. And what's this talk? You got to bring me up to speed on this. What's this talk about Zero Hedge and the Federalist getting censored and taken out? Is this the beginning? Is this the end of the internet, man? Can they censor everything now because they've taken the whole market share now? If they don't like you, boom, you're toast. I
believe what you're referring to, I was just going to pull something up, is that two websites, Zero Hedge and the Federalist, had, and also I want to get to a super chat from...
Oh, we got a super chat. I didn't even notice that.
Andrew Holman, $5 super chat, said nukes like these are launched from silos, subs, or space now. That's why nuclear powers have the ability to destroy the world in less than an hour. That's the scary thing. We don't even need planes anymore. They'll just be. And it's also one of the interesting things too about. Hey, one of my favorite movies, War Games. One of my favorite quotes in the histories of movies.
Yeah.
Right, and in war games, when they ask, when they try to figure out how do you win global thermonuclear war, they say sometimes the only winning move is not to play. Because to your point, that was very interesting.
I lost the bid on that one. There was a 16mm copy of War Games, and I was going to actually get that for you as a gift for your birthday, but then I ended up losing the bid like 5 minutes before it started because I was out working.
I do love that movie. I was going to look something up, and I forgot what it was. Oh, you're talking about... There was a couple websites that are banned. Not banned. They were removed from Google AdSense. I believe the Federalist and Zero Hedge. Zero Hedge is just kind of like a... I don't know what the word for Zero Hedge I would use would be. kind of just like I remember seeing them on Twitter. They would pop around like the financial parts of Twitter every now and then. They were talking about the stock market and stuff.
Yeah.
And then they were big on like coronavirus conspiracy stuff coming into January. That was my biggest exposure to the website. I have to admit, I don't think any. I won't say any, but I don't think they would hit what I would say is the requirement for why you should be kicked off Google AdSense.
Okay.
Because, like, I mean, if it's really, I don't. What are you gonna do if people believe crazy stuff? What are you talking about here? So we'll bring it up. So it's from CNN. Google has taken action against 2 news websites over what it says are offensive remarks in their comment sections, banning one site from making money off advertising platforms and threatening to ban the other. That is what bothers me. I don't care if Google says we don't like this website's publication.
Yeah.
And we think they don't. I mean, I think famously, like the Daily Stormer was ran off of Google and a bunch of publications. They didn't want to deal with the Daily Stormer.
Well, nobody
However,
would. Yeah.
what they're referring to here, I guess, according to CNN, which is stupid and a problem, is they're referring to the comment sections. Sorry, guys, we might have to turn comments off on our YouTube videos or else they'll be demonetized in the future, because how could you police every comment section on anything?
It's impossible. How's Joe Rogan? The second he presses publish.
Well, his videos, I believe, temporarily... I mean, I believe the streams, the comments do in the video, but yeah, I think he actually does have comments turned off in the streams as well.
Yeah, so how could anybody, like, whether you're conservative, whether you're liberal, whether you're left, right, center, up, down, or upside down, if you've got any kind of following, we work hard to try and answer our comments still, and I can't get through some of these. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I'll get through the top 30% of comments, and that's it. And it took me an hour before I went to bed. You know what I'm saying?
What's worth mentioning, the Federalist actually just removed they did the only thing you can do. They'd remove the comment sections from their, they mentioned that Google said in a subsequent tweet that the Federalist had removed its comment section and that no action will be taken. So I want to make sure I mention that.
Okay.
The Federalist, nothing's changing for them, except they were forced to remove the comment section because, you can't police it. It's impossible. It just can't be done.
Yeah.
You can't police every comment people make. It's just you have to either have a comment section that is relatively, I mean, obviously regulated in some sense, right? I mean, they probably, of course, have some moderation in there, but I mean, you can't control the implications in the statements everything every person makes. It'll just eventually something will slip through. So I think that might be the future. We'll just see more people take the Federalist and move away from comment sections.
Yeah.
Twitter's facilitating it. Thank you, CNN.
Well, see, but also what I'm wondering is how is that any different, Cody, than what part of the reason why I enjoy live streaming is because I can interact in real time with everybody. Like, this is hilarious. Perrin001 says, I'd piss on a spark plug if it would do any good. I think that's just a hilarious comment. It's a little bit non sequitur, but it's something to talk about. And they're also asking really good questions right here. You know, talking about video games, asking, hey, what's your opinion on this? What's your opinion on that? That interaction is amazing and part of the reason why I love live streaming. But are you going to regulate the comments during the live stream too? And if you say no, well, what they asked during live stream, well, how is that any different than the VOD that gets posted afterwards?
How about this? How about the fact that comment sections stay forever? I'll see if I can pull this up. Actually, I want to see if I can find this for you guys really quickly before I say it. But sometimes things move in our age very quickly.
Yeah,
very, very quickly. And what happens if a comment that was 1,000%, I mean, accepted at the time, wasn't so? Do you know who once said all lives matter?
Whoa.
At a time when all lives matter was still controversial. I mean, all lives matter was
it was like the boomer conservative response to Black Lives Matter.
Well, in 2015, do you know who was saying all lives matter? 5 years ago. I agree, probably shouldn't be brought up. But again, if you're going to get into, just to highlight how things have moved, in 2015, that was something that Hillary Clinton said. Hillary Clinton's speech Tuesday at a historic black church in Missouri was mostly well received by the audience, but 3 words angered some of the activists she was hoping to appeal to. Clinton spoke to frequent applause about religion, racism, access to education, parent communities, and the shooting last week in Charleston, The church where Clinton spoke, Christ the King United Church of Christ, is in Florissant, Missouri, fewer than 5 miles from where the rioting and protesting happened in Ferguson. But she's now facing criticism on social media after using the phrase "All Lives Matter," which has been used by some as pushback to the phrase "Black Lives Matter." The later phrase, which hung on a banner outside the church, was widely used by protesters in Ferguson and other cities. Before using the phrase, Clinton was retelling an anecdote about the lessons she learned from her mother. I asked her, "What kept you going?" Her answer was very simple: kindness along the way from someone who believed she mattered. All lives mattered. To some in the pews, what Clinton said fell flat or worse. With her statement that all lives matter, that blew a lot of support that she may have been able to engender here, said Ronika Lampkin, a pastor at St. John AME Church in St. Charles. She is white, and while protesting in Ferguson was hit in the gut with a rubber bullet, her passion becomes in part her children are African American. My children matter. And I'm not going to relitigate what happened 5 years ago. However, it's just what I'm saying is what's interesting about patrolling comment sections is there a statute of limitations on this stuff? Or will a comment from 5 years ago that, again, if there's something that Hillary Clinton would have said 5 years ago, going to get pulled up 5 years later and mean that will it lead to the retroactive removal of all comments ever posted? Because something like seriously, you could be quoting Hillary Clinton 5 years ago and that could be unacceptable today.
Yeah.
Things move quickly now. That's one of the things that does confuse me about that. It's starting to patrol comment sections is because sometimes they will be moderated, but I mean, time passes and things move quickly from absolutely unacceptable to what Hillary Clinton. I mean, I'm not saying everyone should say what Hillary Clinton says, but you see what I mean. I mean, I don't think she'd be making that misstep in 2020. Yet a comment could exist from 5 years ago that would have a totally different tone than it once could have had.
Yeah, it almost makes you wonder what's the way out of this, because ultimately things would have to normalize because humanity can't keep existing together this way. We can't keep existing in a way where the predominant form of communication is a form of communication that is stripped of nuance. I love writing, and I love how Ernest Hemingway said a writer shouldn't speak what he wants to say, but should write what he wants to say. And there's power in the written word, but there's nuance, intensity, passion, love, respect that is expressed in the spoken word. But even more that's expressed in the seen spoken word through a real human interaction. And we strip ourselves of all of that nuance and everything the second we start engaging in text messaging or in tweeting or in truncated speech where we have to try and make sure that it fits in 280 characters and so on and so forth. So it was fun as long as social media was a secondary form of communication to the primary form of communication in person. But as social media has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, it's no longer becoming the secondary. It is now becoming the primary. And human beings were not made to communicate in a way that lacks this. I don't see how this is going to get better. And I also don't see how having an internet that never forgets every bad thing you've ever said or done is at all going to help humanity. I don't see that as getting better. Am I going wrong? Am I just being an old man yelling from my lawn? What's going on, Cody?
Yeah. Well, you know what I think's funny? I think it's funny. What's the classic Ben Shapiro quote he always says?
Facts don't care about your feelings.
Yeah, but this conservative idea that this ideal that people can choose to hear what they want to hear now. We just can. And most people will say, I don't want to hear things I don't want to hear. I want to hear things I want to hear, and that's it.
Okay.
They're not looking to sit down and have debate on why they're wrong. Why? I don't have to. I can just be reinforced about why I'm right all the time. Is that good or bad? I don't know. It definitely leads to a point of you feel like you don't have to tolerate anything else, because why tolerate things I don't have to accept as real? But it doesn't matter if facts care about my feelings or not. I'm going to feel whatever way I'm going to damn please feel. And I think we've entered, unfortunately, the era of emotion again.
Yeah.
Back to it doesn't matter what the reality is. It just matters what people think about it. To the point where things will actually implode and collapse and no longer function anymore because people are working on how they felt instead of how things should have been, what the facts were. But it's where it is. It's where we've gone.
Okay. So, Christian...
We've become enlightened.
Oh, yeah. Please. What do you think would happen, Cody? Like, I really wonder what would happen if all of the great educators and the great philosophers were to come back and just look at our society now, like Clara Barton, my great aunt or whatever she is to me, it's 4 generations back, whatever that is. If she were to come back and just see how she infamously gave money to a lot of girls' schools, for example, back in the day, and if she were to just see girls texting now in this truncated language, like, oh, BTW, BRB, LOL. You know
I use
like,
RN all the time.
RN, yeah, like it just
like, I mean, it's not a girl thing. I use RN, Lamau, 2 of my favorites.
Well, you say Lamau,
2 of
but
my favorites.
what's RN again? Right now? Okay, cool. Rock on. Hey, I'm getting it. It's like Morse code, dude. Believe it or not, when I was a kid, I got my ham radio license, and I was actually starting to learn Morse code with my mom as we drove to school by listening to audio tapes that would say like A, dit, B, dit, C, dit, you know? And I was actually practicing Morse code. I never actually learned Morse code, but that would have been totally awesome if I could have. In fact, now I think I want to do it. I'm going to learn Morse code, Cody, and it's going to be epic.
Okay, I mean, what are you going to do with it?
I don't know, but I did just see the movie Parasite, and I see it as being useful at some point. And it was also in UB571. I don't know. Don't you feel like that's one of those things that, like, just in the one moment when you need it, it comes through for you? Morse code.
In movies, yeah, I think it'd be one of those things where in real life, you'd be that one guy out there hammering away Morse code, and people would be like, "It's weird. I just hear like beeps. I don't know what he's saying."
Okay, cool. So anyway, what do you think of this? What do you think of the warehouse robot, dude? Did you see it? It's pretty gnarly looking. Have you seen how it behaves? It's actually pretty kind of cool. See, I'm one of these guys that looks forward to a future where robots are doing more of the manual labor, and we can actually go back to the deeper questions. I'm with Elon Musk on that one. I just don't want it to happen too fast.
So you believe in fully automated luxury space communism? Is that what you're saying?
Okay, wait, hold on. I got to unpack that. That's very long term. Well, first off, you can never fully automate. You could never. Anybody that says you could fully, no, some aspects of the process you can fully automate. But you ever seen that movie WALL-E?
WALL-E? I've never heard of this movie WALL-E you speak of. What is this WALL-E? Yeah, I've seen WALL-E. Yeah.
Okay. I don't think we could ever get as humanity and humankind into a space where we're in a ship that big that is truly fully automated. There would be far too much national resources would be required to be a source of fuel and so on and so forth. We could never get fully automated.
What if we had miners mining 24 hours a day? You know, we had builders building 24 hours a day. We had everything that needs to be done being done 24 hours a day.
Then we could literally be, just like Elon Musk said, focusing on the deeper questions.
You think we would? Or do you think we'd be like in WALL-E? Which one? Would we be at Plato's school discussing life, or would we be like WALL-E? What do you think?
I would be. I'm freaking meditating like that guy in Rafiki. I'd be meditating like Rafiki in The Lion King. That's what I would be doing. Seriously deep stuff. Take the camera off me. I'm getting embarrassed.
Why? What? I mean, sure, I guess. I don't know. I think if I do agree, though, there is always that idea that automation will lead to people not having to do certain jobs anymore. But I also think there's something to people doing those jobs. What's the best way to put it? I don't know if they can we can replace labor with machines and not have that lead to a pretty rough transition period. We have a super chat from Christian Solid.
Rock on.
PSP live stream in sign language. I could probably do the fake sign language they do on TV.
Is that fake? Well, no, there's that one guy that got busted for just walking up.
I have heard that there's people, and maybe fake's the wrong word, but I've heard there's people that are like, that do speak sign language, and are like, these sign language people in press conferences are just like ridiculous. Like it's close, but they're trying to, you know, I guess to borrow a wrestling term, trying to get themselves over instead of just trying to make sure people know what they're doing. I don't speak sign language. I can't verify myself, but people who do speak it say, yeah, it's like hard to understand what it is they're signing because they're so.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. They suck at it, huh? Who is that one guy that got busted
they don't
because
suck? It's just a different style, I guess you could say.
Okay. Wasn't there a guy? Don't you remember there was a guy that got close to one of our presidents by faking that he did sign language?
Probably could. That's the problem. Not enough people speak sign language. They'd be like, sure, man. I guess you do.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. So we got some questions here. Trevor Topsic says, I didn't watch Parasite because I didn't want to read the whole movie. I think he meant watch the whole movie. It was interesting. It got dogged a lot in some conservative circles as being some kind of like class warfare.
Is Parasite
thing.
the newest movie that came out that was big in Korea?
Yes, I think so.
Not the monster movie Host.
No, that Host is 2007. That's a
in
decade
my head.
old.
I literally, until I said Host out loud, did I not realize that they were different films.
No, but I thought Parasite was a great movie.
I've never seen it, so I don't know.
Actually, I'd highly recommend it. Parasite is a great movie, and it talks a lot about class, which is also a much bigger problem in Korea than it is America. Class
Really?
issues.
Is it? Do you live in Korea? I don't know. Maybe.
Oh, no.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't know. I don't live
You've never had any Korean friends?
Multiple, but I'd be in like there's class issues in America.
Oh yeah,
there's class issues in Germany probably. There's probably class issues in Saudi Arabia.
No,
I mean, like
no, but I'm saying class mobility in America is a well-oiled machine compared to India, compared to Korea, compared to some of these other places where just culturally your class is much more of a definition than here. We don't talk about class first. We talk oftentimes about occupation first. Okay, but I mean it is crazy, and I think they're coming out of it as they westernize. Everybody is, but I thought it was a great movie that did speak to many of the. It's not like we don't have class problems here. I think that it's a different brand, but by them making that movie on those class issues, we were able to have a little bit of introspect here in America. I thought it was great. I thought it was awesome. So anyway, fake sign language guy was from South Africa. Oh yeah, that was it. There was a South African dude that was the fake sign language guy.
Look, this is in America for Hurricane Irma. I'm showing right now. I mean, like I've heard I think someone mentioned this. Yeah, like it's just very dramatic. It's very dramatized, over the top types of sound language that just like it's not how people would speak to each other. It's whatever. I don't speak sign language,
dude.
So I couldn't tell you.
Is he? Wait, but I thought that was a guy that snuck in and was just like joking. Wasn't that a comedian?
I don't speak sign language, so maybe.
Does anybody speak sign language in the chat? Is that real? Because that is incredible if it is.
But I just pulled that random one up because it's just every now and then during a lot of the protests, a lot of the press conferences during coronavirus, similar stuff. But they like I said, they like to kind of get their moments on camera, is what I see.
Okay, cool. So we got a lot of people in the chat giving another shout out for Joker. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. You know what I'm saying?
You know what's funny? I have not. The most recent released movie I've seen is
what?
I think the most recently released film I have seen is Logan Lucky. I think is what it's called.
What's Logan Lucky?
That was the one. I think it was Daniel Craig and Daniel Craig and God, what's his name? The guy Adam Driver.
Okay.
I haven't seen a lot of movies in a couple of years. I haven't seen. Oh, you know what? Endgame might be the most recent movie I've seen.
Wait, Avengers Endgame?
Yeah.
I still haven't seen it. I've never gotten into the Marvel franchise. To be honest with you, I've been so underimpressed.
Endgame was the first movie I've seen since Iron Man 3. Or Iron Man 2.
Logan Lucky. I didn't even know. What is Logan Lucky? Am I missing out? Do I got to watch this?
That was all right. I thought it was kind of funny. I just happened to watch it on Amazon Prime one day. I don't remember watching, I mostly just watch older movies, I guess. I've been thinking in my head, what was the last movie I saw? I don't even remember.
Okay, so I have been working through my movie list. We're about to wrap up here. You know what I'm saying? We're about to wrap up here, so we might as well talk about some fun stuff, a little bit of pop culture things. But I've been working through my movie list of movies you wanted me to watch. And I was actually trying to get through all the reason why I watched WALL-E was because I love post-apocalyptic films. And did you know that WALL-E is rated in the top 10, according to movie critics, of post-apocalyptic films? I thought that was kind of crazy. So I'm watching Platform this week. Okay. What about you? What's on your list, man? Hit me.
I honestly don't know. To be honest, you know what I've been watching a lot of? I've been going back and watching the original NWO run on WCW Nitro and pay-per-views from '97. wrestling. That's what I've been watching.
Whoa.
I have WWE Network, and I was like, you know what? I've seen a lot of WWE stuff. I wonder what was going on in WCW before it all fell apart. So I've been watching. I will say one thing. American media reminds me a lot of 2000 WCW, where they kind of started to realize that the writers started to realize, whoa, wait a minute. We can just control things, and we're just going to go crazy. But yeah, I haven't been watching movies a lot. I've been watching wrestling mainly.
Okay, cool.
Like I was trying to think, like I pulled up like recent movie releases and I was going through them. Maybe I want to see the Bloodshot movie with Vin Diesel, but I heard Artemis Fowl was one of the worst movies ever made, which sucks because I remember reading the book as a kid.
Oh, but there's been some great biopics that have come out in the past 5 years, man. Like the Queen movie, that was great.
I gotta be honest.
You don't like Queen?
There was nothing I cared less about than a movie about Queen.
Well, did you see the recent It's? The It movie was good.
Not a big Stephen King guy, though.
Okay. Oh, there was another one, The Invisible Man. You didn't watch The Invisible Man? I thought that was a great modern homage to the original.
I see. I've never seen the movie, but I heard about the concept and I took great exception to it because I thought it was basically spitting in the face of the original. I do want to watch I want to watch some new Nicolas Cage movies. That's for sure.
Okay. So, wow, you haven't seen any of those. What about The Hunt?
Dang,
I love
Bloodshot.
The Hunt.
Sucked. That sucks, man. I remember I used to read the Bloodshot comics. Bloodshot's a pretty cool character, Vin Diesel, but yeah, I guess it sucked. I just don't watch a lot of movies. Like I said, I watch a lot of the new movies I watch will be weirder ones, goofy ones. There's not that many. I don't remember the last time I saw a trailer for a film and I was like, damn, I gotta go see that. I mean, you know what? I do remember the last time I felt that way. It was Blade Runner 2049. It's still the last time I really was excited about seeing a movie.
Blade Runner 2029 was the last time you were excited to see a movie.
Yeah, I like that. I like the director, Denis Villeneuve, I believe is how you pronounce it. I love the first Blade Runner. I love the art style of it, so I was very excited to see it, and I liked it. It was a good movie.
Dude, wow, that's crazy.
But
man.
I'm like, I'll watch. See, National Treasure. I could do another, but like, I'll go back and watch the first National Treasure for like the 5th time.
Dude, I love the National Treasure.
I'll
Flash
go back and watch
franchise.
all kinds of movies I like for like 5. That's the other thing. I just watch movies I like multiple times, so I don't watch new ones.
Okay, that's cool. All right. Well, we're actually going to wrap it up here, guys. This has been super fun. This has been super cool. I'm actually thinking tomorrow could we do the Discord?
Yeah, I set it up. I forgot to tell you, I set it up.
Yeah. I know we were going to try that today, but then we got so distracted talking about other things.
You know what? The Disaster Artist, I read that book and I loved it. That was the Disaster Artist, the book is the only book I remember like crying, laughing, reading in my entire life. I love that book so much. Yeah. I never wanted to see the movie because the movie looked kind of like but that's a great book. I recommend that book to anyone who's not read it. The Disaster Artist. Great book.
Interesting. All right. Cool, man. Cool. Well, it's been real and it's been fun. Everybody make sure you follow us on Twitter. All right. We got an Amazon wish list for equipment if you guys want to support the channel that way or just become a member. It's always fun to see the members' highlighted comments and so on and so forth. Also, keep an eye open for the topic discussion community posts that we throw out there and see if you can download the Discord server. So hopefully we can maybe answer some questions in the next chat.
Wait, before we leave then, I'll put it. What's the Discord thing again? Someone asked. But what we're going to do is we're going to set it up. So here's the link so you can join. I'll have set up a specific room and I will invite you so you could basically do like a voice call into the show.
Okay, cool. Rock on. Rock on.
So
Sweet.
please join through the link.
Okay, so join through the link below. Hit us up on Discord so we can all talk. This is Problem Solver Politics. We will see you guys in the next live stream.